Please put your hands together for Moises Garcia.
Hello, hello. First time being here, happy to be here, happy to tell a story. I think it's really interesting that sometimes I love to wander around, be a little bit of a vagabond, but then sometimes as well, it's I happen to just step on a stage and they give me a mic. It's really how I got into music school. So I went to a really tiny private college called Illinois Wesleyan. And literally, it was I was just, 18-year-old, just going out checking colleges. It was, for me, it was a new experience. I'm like, for me, I kind of have a little bit of an ADD to where it's I need to explore many areas as possible. And I just love to wander like that. And literally, I got lost in the music school and then went down this back room tunnel and then emerged on the other side. And I happened to end up on a stage, and all 5 professors that were auditioning me for the school of music were there. And they're like, oh, yes. Moises, one of our music candidates, is up on the stage. You have some songs to sing for us? And I'm just, I feel like I walked out and I was like, oh, I guess I gotta sing some songs now. And, I sung some songs, and now I have a music degree, so it's interesting how that works. But I think my story's a little bit different than that. I think in terms of rejection, I'm kind of an ugly guy, so I get rejected all the time. But for me, I think this is a very specific type of rejection I want to talk about. Sometimes we tend to look at things and, we tend to process them and think yeah, this is a great idea. But then all of a sudden we get this weird feeling in our gut that says, nah, man, don't do that. You can just skip. You can move on. This story is a little bit about that. So while I was studying abroad in Europe, I went to Barcelona. And for me, I don't know why, I thought the coolest thing of Barcelona was palm trees, because it was my first time seeing palm trees. So literally I was walking around, I'm like, oh, there's a tree. Oh, there's another tree. I had such a good time doing that. Later in the night, I decided to go out into the Gothic town, and I went to a bar called Race Car, which is this niche little indie bar. And I went in and I was thinking, race car. Maybe I might be the driver of, Spain's next hottest telenovela. Who knows? I'm up for the night. And literally, so I walk in and, I see the show, I'm just vibing out, or, whatever kids my age say. And then I decide to go to the bathroom. And funny enough, I run into 2 guys who were admissions counselors at Northern Illinois University. So I'm thinking, halfway across the world, who would I want to run into? Definitely not someone from Illinois, let me tell you that. But I'm I guess, we're Americans in a foreign country. I guess we got to be friends. So I chatted it up, told them I went to Wesley, and told them how Northern Illinois rejected me for music. Northern Illinois literally told me to not pursue the music. They were like, yeah, I think you'd be better somewhere else. And they were like, oh, sorry to hear about that. Want to get a drink? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, that makes things better. But ultimately, we go out, get a drink, we have a good time. We're walking around the Gothic town, I'm in the middle. One of the guys is on my left. It's 2 guys, by the way. I don't know if that makes a difference. Probably does. And then there's a guy on my right side, and we're walking through the streets, we're moseying around, and then things get very hot very fast. I kid you not, these 2 bandits come up to the guy on my left and literally shove him down, grab his phone, and run off. And we're thinking, oh, it's a Friday night, and they literally run into the Gothic town, the big downtowns. There's a big downtown street. It's kind of like the hotspot with all the clubs and bars, and then they go away, and literally one guy's like, we must go get them. And then the other guy's after them. And then I'm thinking, man, I just wanted a drink, but now it's I'm in a video game, and I just ran into some non-playable characters, and now I'm on a side quest, and I'm like, oh, here I go. I gotta, progress past this mission so I can continue on with my life. So literally, we run off into the streets, and we catch the guy. I don't even know how we did it. There was just so many people. We find a guy. The interesting thing was one guy went left, one guy went right. We chased the guy on the left. We got the guy. We tackled him down. And then all of a sudden, these cops come by, and we're like, thank God, cops, my buddy's friend's phone got stolen, there's gonna be some good justice here. And, I went up to the cop, and I was like, hey, maybe you could help us out. And he literally puts a handcuff on my hand, and I'm like, hey, what is going on? And literally, so he just talks to me, and he was like, I was trying to tell him the story. I was like, hey, this guy robbed my buddy's phone. Maybe, you could help us get it back. And literally this cop looks at us, and he says, well, for the looks of me, it looks like you just assaulted this guy. That means you guys are going to jail. And, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, darn, this took a big turn pretty quick. And literally, the other two guys, they didn't speak Spanish, so I was just like translating what the cop had said. And I was like, hey, I think, we weren't supposed to like tackle that guy. Maybe we might like go to jail for this. And they're like, oh, maybe we could figure it out. I explained the story more, was chatting up a bit with the cop. And the cop, he does like this like deal or no, or not, whatever the game show is with the doors, I think it's deal or no deal thing. He decides to cut this bargain with me. He says, all right, son, we have two options. One, we can let this guy go, forget any of this has ever happened, and then you guys can go free. Or two, I can go ahead and pat this guy down. If he has your phone, I will arrest this guy. If he doesn't, then I'll arrest you three. The choice is yours. And, I'm sitting there thinking, I was just out exploring, enjoying the palm trees, and now I'm about to be potentially booked into Spain's jail system. What a story. And, but literally, I'm sitting there, I'm talking to the guys, I'm telling them the options, and one of the guys, it's his phone, and he's got a lot of pictures on it, and he's like, I just really want to get this back. I think we could go ahead and take this chance, knowing that, we got one of the guy, but it could have been on the other guy. Who knows? But literally, we were just sitting there, and we're just like, I heard his story, I heard his pleas, that he just wants to get the phone back. I think it would be like a cool Hail Mary to pull off the night. But then I just had this weird feeling in my gut that was just like, nah, man, I just want to go home. So literally, I just went up to the cop, and I was like, nah, man, I just want to go home. And they were like, all right, cool, we go off. Me and these two guys, we ended up going to this bar. It was like on the Mediterranean, and literally we were just like having nachos, and they were thinking about it, and they were like, oh, you know what, I think that was probably the right choice. We probably could have went to jail, or maybe we would have messed this up. It's a good thing we just cut our losses and went back. What made you take that decision? And for me, that weird gut feeling stemmed from the fact that Spain literally doesn't serve food till 9 p.m., so I was just wandering around starving, and literally I was just like, you know what, I think we've become a little bit of a weird, dysfunctional family from the short 2 hours that we've known each other. I'm really hungry for some nachos. Maybe, we can cut this drama short and, go get some food. And they looked at me, I thought we would be lifelong friends. And they're like, you know what, I think we should go home. And I'm like, yes, we should go home. That is my story.